My name is Antara. I am a beauty and personal care and lifestyle marketing specialist. I have seen global brands move from consumer will never buy a lipstick or nail paint that they're not trying to now consumer wants the lipstick delivered in 7 to 10 minutes or less, right? There is no consumer that can school you as well as an Indian consumer. As per the latest numbers, India is currently the 4th largest beauty market in the world.
With over a decade of experience, she's led marketing strategies for top brands like The Body Shop and continues to drive growth for Quest's diverse beauty and personal care portfolio.
Beauty is a very tangible category, right? It is a what you see is what you get kind of category. It makes you feel a certain way, and that's why it's a very high emotional investment category. For the longest time, I have heard this said about the category that it's an impulse category. Isme loyalty nahi hota. That's actually not true. Building a really strong loyalty program in India, especially where the diversity of consumer is so high, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
We're excited to have her on the show.
It looks very glamorous, but there's a lot of very, very hard work and a lot of driving of nitty-gritties that goes into it.
Hi everyone, this is Priyam from WebEngage. I head product marketing here, and I am also the host of the State of Retention Marketing podcast. Today we have a very exciting guest. We have Antara Kundu in the house, who's the head of marketing for Quest Retail. Antara's got about 16 years of experience handling beauty and personal care brands, and we dive deep into managing luxury brands, how to actually build engagement and retention strategies, and a lot more.
Hi, Antara. Welcome to the State of Retention Marketing podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, Priyam. I'm doing very well. I hope you're doing well too. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's our pleasure, and we have been meaning to do this for a while, and I'm so excited that we finally have you on the show. 15 plus years as a consumer marketer, that too operating for some of the most exciting beauty and personal care brands in India. Very excited to find out. Do tell us a little bit.
I've had the honor to be in the thick of things while, India's beauty business has really kind of, gotten into high gear. I actually started out in, kind of core FMCG sales and, the Unilever mothership. And then I fell into the beauty and personal care category entirely by accident. It was not by design, the way they're meant to be, even though they may not be your plans to begin with. And I kind of fell into the category, really fell in love with the category. It's a very, very interesting, very exciting category to be in. I think it looks very glamorous, but there's a lot of very, very hard work and, a lot of driving of nitty-gritties that goes into it. And yes, I've been fortunate enough to work on a wide variety of brands in this category, from homegrown kind of early players in the luxury and the Ayurveda segment to, global brands which either have had some legacy in India or have kind of built a very substantial presence in India. In the course of the same journey, I've also managed to actually work on multiple functions. So I've worked in sales, I've worked in product innovation, I've worked in e-commerce, P&L, I've worked on, I'm currently in a strategy role. And right now I work for Quest Retail, which is basically India's kind of leading specialty beauty and lifestyle retailer and distributor. We have a wide portfolio of brands, some of them very well established kind of global players like The Body Shop, Kiehl's, Avon, Anastasia, Beverly Hills. And we also have a clutch of very young, kind of fresh entrants into the India market, which we're looking at scaling up. So, those kind of brands include, Max Factor, Kylie Cosmetics by Kylie Jenner, so on and so forth. And I basically look at the strategy and the growth marketing for the entire group.
Amazing. Some really cool, exciting brands there, Antara. And from the job roles that you described, that's the whole gamut, effectively, of building a brand. There was a lot of excitement around beauty back in the day, which has extended, and it has resulted in the industry growing at such a rapid rate, right? It used to be the realm of people who could afford beauty products. They always used to be expensive. But that's not the case anymore. There's the rise of affordable luxury. And beauty has been one of those industries which has seen massive change in terms of increase in consumption thanks to urbanization as well. Has this been something you have been seeing in your experience as well, Andrea?
Yeah, so for sure. Actually, I think to start off with, just to set some context, we keep hearing in various platforms about how India is the country of the big demographic dividend, right? So the beauty and personal care industry is actually, I think, a category and a market where the big demographic dividend has paid off. What's actually happened in the market, over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, is dramatically different from what the category was before. When I started out in the business, it was a very traditional kind of beauty consumption market with beauty and skincare and makeup products would typically be special occasion. They were not daily use products. They didn't build themselves into customers every day. And there was a very typical life cycle whereas because the consumers back then were primarily women, they remain primarily women now, but now we have men and all genders the category as well. There would be a typical life cycle kind of laddering and consumption of beauty products that would go out. So, the consumer would be in school, she would be using and dabbling whatever was in her mother's dresser. As she went to college, maybe, she would use lip balm and a kajal and maybe some nail paint. And then when she would get married or have her first job, that would go up slightly. And, all the kind of higher end makeup products would be special occasion use, right? When there's a wedding in the family, when you have a performance, when you have a night out, so on and so forth. What's really, really changed with the younger demographic kind of coming into play, with more working women, stepping out of home, with more women stepping up for professional education, as well as, how the overall demographics and socioeconomic piece has moved, is that beauty has moved from something that was a specialized, occasional used category to becoming an intrinsic part of people's lives. There are various reasons for this. Firstly, of course, it's a younger, more confident, more aspiring population. It's young people today and have been now for a long time. They want to look good, they want to feel good, they understand the connection between looking good and feeling confident inside. Disposable incomes have been on the rise, and I think the digital space and social media have had a huge role to play, because the one thing that has not changed between then and now is that beauty in India has always been an education-driven category, right? So consumers back then and even now want to learn more. They want to kind of acquire the knowledge and the skills to be able to use beauty products. They want to understand how to apply a moisturizer and a sunscreen right. Equally, they want to understand how to apply an eye makeup or a foundation correctly. Back then, the options were, you would go to your nearest beauty counter. There weren't that very many specialized beauty retail stores even at that point of time, and you would rely on the beauty salesperson's expertise, right? But it was still education. Now with social media, with this movement kind of beauty and digital content that has happened, the education is in the palm of the consumer, right? So when you want to understand, is this serum right for me? If this foundation shade right for me, that knowledge is there in the palm of your hand. And that has been a game changer. So, it's really been a perfect storm where you have, on the one hand, a consuming kind of demographic that has, kind of risen, that has more opportunity, that has more aspiration, that is now clued into kind of beauty trends that are happening globally. And at the same time, they also have access to the best of beauty education, access to the best of beauty products through online and digital. The third, I think, big factor, which has been in literally, I think, post-COVID, is the explosion of brands that has also happened. So whether we look at the homegrown ecosystem, which has really, really kind of exploded, and at the same time, global beauty brands are now looking at India for the reasons that you enumerated at the start of this conversation, that this is, one of the most exciting beauty markets in the world. India, just, as per the latest numbers, India is currently the fourth largest beauty market in the world. Within that, there are very interesting trends. Right, while yes, you're right, the kind of more aggressive growth number seems to be in the 14 to 15% range. As insiders, we are kind of looking at a 10-11% growth rate, and that is that is more than double of a lot of developed markets, a lot of shining markets that beauty brands used to rely on. So it's really the perfect time to be in the beauty business, and I'm very excited to see what happens with the brand ecosystem next.
Awesome. I'm so curious to dive deep into the education aspect, Antara. I was reading up about the industry and I got so many interesting insights, especially from industries around the world, right? If I consider slightly more advanced, mature markets like the US, for example, uh, the education is almost like a byproduct of people becoming a lot more mature in terms of their own usage. So it's a part and parcel of being a user that's mature in their life cycle, consumption patterns, so on and so forth. But India, of course, was playing catch up. A lot of the fads were imported from around the world. They arrived here, and people started to, grab hold of whatever was made available to them. But things seem to be changing now. Brands are investing heavily in education, and it's beginning from a point of view of personalization and inclusivity, right? Where everyone now wants to know whether this is right for them, their skin type, their background, all of these aspects, right? How much of this has affected your marketing per se? Is it now primarily education led? Are you using that as one of your growth tools in your strategy?
So education, to be very honest, has always been core to the beauty business. Like I said, yes, what has really evolved is, the mix in which you kind of reach out to the consumer with this education kind of approach, right? So I want, while like I said, beauty education online has been really kind of like a game changer. We also have to remember that something that I really encourage, anyone interested in consumer marketing in India to look at is very closely is that India's, as compared to a US or even, the kind of more the Western European markets, India is really a subcontinent in every sense of the word, right? So the sheer extent of diversity from a linguistic and a cultural perspective is very, very high. So as a consumer marketeer in a very tangible category. So beauty is a very tangible category, right? What you it is a what you see is what you get kind of category. It makes you feel a certain way, and that's why it's a very high emotional investment category. So when we talk about education kind of shaping strategy, education has always been core. However, what we are looking at now more closely are the nuances of how that education evolves across different channels. Any strong player in a market like ours, because our market is a subcontinent, wanting to achieve a certain scale of growth in the beauty business, I personally believe has to have a really strong omnichannel play. Because India is it is such a huge market that consumers are influenced by the brands being where they are. They have such a luxury of choice right now that they are not going to make an additional effort to reach out to your brand if your brand is not already accessible in some way or the other. So from a point of view of education, that means the quality of education that you provide to your consumer on the shop floor from the moment they step into your store, that has to be absolutely impeccable, but it also has to be customized to what their needs and concerns are. It is a very concern-driven category. 9 out of 10 consumers walk into our stores wanting to solve a need or a desire. It is a desire-driven category. It's very tactical. So the language and the behavior of the store team member has to not just be warm and welcoming, but it has to be of a very high quality of education where the consumer really feels like they're getting value, that they are learning, and the concern that they have stepped into the store with is getting addressed. With omnichannel, what this means is that as close to this impeccable offline kind of beauty retail experience you're offering has to also be offered online, and that is really the big challenge, because how do you translate that level of education to your consumer who has much lesser time to spend and who does not have that advantage of the human interaction that is there in a store, right? This could mean more incorporating more technology into the process and there are incredible beauty technologies being developed right now. Everything from, as I mentioned, a foundation match to trying on whether the lipstick shade is right for you and your undertone, to building your own kind of regimen for your life stage and your concerns. That is also education that is being imparted online, where this beauty tech online is doing what my classical, very well-trained store advisor or beauty staff can do offline. So from a strategic perspective, there's definitely more and more investment going into beauty education, both from an operational perspective as well as from a marketing perspective, because the lines on education are very, very blurred. What the consumer sees on brand social media handles is also education, right? So whether they are learning to build their own regime, whether they are looking to brand content, but at the back of their minds, they always have the fact that I'm going to look around online, find something that's a perfect fit, and then I will buy it from the channel that is most convenient for me. So like you mentioned, the for me kind of queries in our category for the last several years, over 50% of Google searches related to BPC, generic searches, have ended with for me or right for me. So that means 1 out of every 2 customers is looking for something that is specific to their concerns, that is specific to their needs. As marketers and as, strategic growth drivers in our category, what we can really do is just to make that journey easier. And education and domain expertise has a huge, huge role to play.
So there's intense personalization in the way all brands are geared to cater to their customers, because effectively you're following a line of content marketing, pure play content marketing, and delivering the best education in the hopes that the person becomes self-actualized and ends up purchasing from you. But then, is there really any semblance of brand loyalty that you see thanks to the great efforts that you guys are delivering on education and priming the customer? Does that translate into real life sort of loyalty?
So loyalty is a very interesting kind of aspect of the beauty and personal care category and industry, because, if you speak to consumer marketeers or, anyone familiar with the category in general, for the longest time, I have heard this said about the category that it's an impulse category. Isme loyalty nahi hota. So, however, that's actually not true. What is the category by itself, again, is not homogeneous. Every beauty brand has certain subcategories, right? And that depends on what the build of the brand is. You could be a multi-category brand like The Body Shop, which has offerings from skincare, makeup, hair care, body care, men's, fragrance, gifting. You could be a makeup forward brand which just happens to, offer additional kind of categories, let's say like a color bar or a MAC, and, so on and so forth. What there always are in any beauty brand, certain segments or certain subcategories that will drive loyalty. And there are certain categories that will drive acquisition or trial, right? So typically color cosmetics and bath and body tend to be acquisitory categories. They tend to be categories where consumers are very, very high on experimentation, right? And it's simple kind of consumer psychology, really. As long as it fits in your budget, you will buy the lipstick that looks best on you. It's driven by shade. The shower gel or the body scrub that you use, you're likely to buy the one that smells best to you at that point of time. So these are 2 categories that typically we build up and we strategize so that these bring in new consumers into the brand. They also typically tend to be priced slightly lesser than the other categories. The loyalty building categories in beauty are skincare and hair care, right? Because these are core concern driven categories. So while I may, as a consumer, buy a lipstick that just, at that point of time, I'm just looking for a neutral lipstick that I can wear to work, or you can buy, you can maybe be looking for something that just conceals imperfections, or, you just buy the shade that matches, right? So there, my propensity to experiment is a lot higher. However, if I have, if I have if I have concerns with, gray, dandruff, if I have concerns with acne, pigmentation, or, blemishes, so on and so forth, when I find a product that works to correct my acne or to, kind of give me healthier skin, helps me maintain my acne-prone skin better, helps me maintain, my dry, frizzy, post-pregnancy hair better, I am very, very unlikely to switch from that product, because that product has addressed something that is a very, very difficult problem for me to address, even in a market which is providing me with a lot of choice. So when we look at the category from a loyalty perspective, it is a matter of, on any beauty brand, it is a matter of balancing. Are you growing both your number one kind of entry category, which could be color or bath and body, and are you growing your loyalty drivers, which will keep which are essentially your retention drivers from a product portfolio perspective. Are you growing skincare? Are you growing hair care? And basis, of course, what the strategy of the brand is. Are you ensuring that both are growing at a healthy rate? Because because effectively what that means is, from a funnel perspective, that's basically how you're ensuring that there is a steady stream of consumers entering the category, discovering the category through these kind of entry level categories, the more impulse driven categories, and then staying with the brand through the more loyalty driving categories.
Amazing answer, Antara. I think the multi-threading aspect is very interesting for any brand owner to dive into. The fact that a Bath and Body Works product could be leveraged as an acquisition-centric category, while there are anchors built into the skincare and hair care category. That was a real revelation for me. You mentioned the point of omnichannel. I'd like to quickly jump onto that aspect as well. I wanted to ask this question right in the beginning. If I have to build a 100 crore brand in India today, right, around the beauty personal care space, how important is it for me to build a digital strategy, something that straddles both omnichannel and off-channel, right? Because I look at the well-known brands out there, Kama, right, 60 plus owned stores, Forest Essentials, probably around 150 stores in India. Sugar Cosmetics, 200 plus stores in India, right? But at the same time, an incredibly solid digital presence as well. They're digital natives today for at least a very large population. Is it like a non-negotiable at this point?
So for achieving a certain level of scale, that could be 100 crores, 150 crores, and so on and so forth. I think omnichannel is non-negotiable, and it's a very simple reason, because what we've seen happening. Maybe 5 years ago, my answer would have been different. We've seen a lot of 100 crores brands, or at least close to that, getting built online and then starting to expand offline as well. A lot of the brands that you've just mentioned, not just beyond kind of standalone stores and kind of the D2C and marketplace presence, are now also building. Some of them, like Sugar, have also built considerable strength in general trade and modern trade and so on and so forth. The reason why I say is, to me, it's a non-negotiable in beauty, is that at the end of the day, while a lot of our brand discovery, our product discovery is happening online, we are also seeing that beauty consumers are fundamentally, wanting to experience the product, right? And you could have the most impeccable online experience, and that's what a lot of us in the business are gunning for. The joy of walking into a truly well-crafted beauty experiential store, or a beauty experiential kind of a space or a counter where you have human interaction, where you have a trained beauty advisor. In the case of makeup, they often tend to be makeup artists as well, right? So that experience is something that Indian consumers really value. And I'll give you a very simple example of this. When COVID struck, I was at that point of time heading the marketing mandate for the Body Shop in South Asia as part of Quest Retail. We actually felt that we were in a fairly strong position, because we were not disadvantaged, because we were already pretty strongly omnichannel. So the Body Shop in India has actually has two very interesting kind of brand assets. One is, it has one of the oldest beauty loyalty programs in the country, might also be the oldest, I'm not super sure. And the second is, it has one of the earliest D2C sites. The D2C site was launched in 2008, 2009, and the brand entered India in 2006. At that time, and I'm sure to being closer to that side of the business, you're aware that a lot of brands were really kind of scrambling to build their online capabilities, right? So we were already placed well. We were not building our structures from ground up. But what we had to do was then kind of quickly realign our strategy and our, how do we really get to the market in this kind of restricted space, right? We saw, because of the loyalty program that is extremely well entrenched already by then, and we constantly work on it internally and with the global brand teams, etc. as well. Of course, a vast majority of consumers, we saw almost 80% of consumers who were shopping offline kind of moved to online, right? These were consumers who were shopping exclusively offline.
Right.
However, when stores reopened, stores obviously reopened in a phased manner. Initially, only your geographies. Every day was an adventure. Every day we would wake up and figure out which is the geography that is open in our top 30 cities. Which are the stores that are open? Where can we deliver from? It was a very character building time. But what we really saw was, as soon as kind of the market, the market pretty much opened up back after the pandemic, most of those consumers went back to the store. So, and then what they continued to do was they continued to refill online, right? So, face wash, daily use products, face washes, and their body lotions, their sun care, which are daily use kind of products. Those are their hygiene products. They would kind of refill online, but the discovery of newer products, of newer categories, was still continuing to happen offline. So, to go back to that balancing the acquisition with the retention piece, omnichannel is important for both, because and now they're inextricably linked. I cannot today, as a marketeer, tell you that my consumer is only discovering me online. Largely, yes, maybe they are discovering me online, but their purchases could be happening offline. They're researching online, they're seeing how, what people are talking about it, what are the reviews about it in other markets that it's been launched, what are, similar products in the basket, and then they make a choice as to where they want to purchase it. So, the experiential nature of beauty, how critical education remains to it.
Yeah.
How do you really discover, how do you really discover a new skincare product, which tends to be a little bit of a higher investment? You want to try it and see how it feels. And yes, why, and the way to kind of keep the online kind of forward consumer happy is to ensure that they have samples, that they have access to technology, that they have access to live consults. We've done live consults through the pandemic as well. And, kind of try to make the experience consistent. But yeah, I feel like online and offline both, they will of course always be, depending on what the economics are panning out, there will always be a mix. Largely, I feel global brands, more kind of premium to prestige brands, tend to do better with a stronger offline presence, because that consumer is a bit more evolved. They are a bit more sure of what what they want to buy, but equally they also want to see a product that they are paying good money for. Buy it.
Interesting. I like the juxtaposition of the acquisition and retention strategy. The acquisitions primarily happening through digital, but retention is happening through digital, but the acquisition game is still going strong on the offline side of things. I agree to a very large extent. And I want to bring myself to the next question of stitching together the offline and online experience that some brands manage to do well, but a lot of brands I personally feel haven't really got the hang of it today. I'll give you an example. I recently interacted with a large electronics retailer, one of the largest in the country. I bought something at an offline location in Delhi NCR from them. This was a fairly sizable purchase. And my online interaction with that brand subsequently, it never reflected that purchase for the longest time. And I was really just shocked as to how they don't have the right data systems in place in this day and age. And till very recently, I remember getting a message on WhatsApp to renew the AMC on the said product that I bought, which got me thinking that finally these guys are getting their act together. And it became such an easy thing for me to just click a button on WhatsApp and I can renew the AMC of the product that I bought offline. But my online transaction effectively helps me take care of that. And that's something that we talk about when we say true omnichannel so much, right? That brands really need to do this. I was reading an interview of, I believe, the CEO of Forest Essentials, who said, we have consumers who do a lot of online browsing, but 7 out of 10 of those people belong to the cohort. When they go to the store, they end up buying something from us. And we ensure that it gets recorded into a CRM or a world of data somewhere, so that the journey continues, right? You can build so much on that. Have you seen that happen in the beauty personal care space as well, where it's led to customer delight if this has been done right?
Absolutely. I think that's, like I said, because beauty is, there is a very clear now usage of daily use of products. And similarly, again, there are also products which are luxuries or which are indulgences for consumers, right? And it is a feel good category, right? By definition, this is a category that isn't supposed to make you feel good. So where you have, it's a very interesting example. So for it, I really truly feel that a well integrated kind of omni-channel CRM, or whatever you want to call it, that mechanism is very critical to a category like us. So in terms of my experience, for example, as I said, for the Body Shop, it's a very data rich, it's a very adaptive CRM program that's been developed and run in India for years. It's called Love Your Body Club. Um, about 8 out
Is
of
this
10.
part of our body shop? Antara?
Yes, Love Your Body Club is the
Oh,
Body Shop loyalty program.
okay.
So
Okay.
and that's what it's always been called. And about 8 out of 10 of our consumers are members of the loyalty club. So
Wow.
the depth of knowledge that you are able to glean, and and how that results into absolute excellence of service, and also how you really make it easy for them to interact and to buy from your brand. Those are experiences that as a consumer, it doesn't matter which category you are from, that's something that you will always keep with you, right? We at this we from a traditional kind of loyalty program, we then integrated it across all channels. Then we have now integrated into a brand app. We're one of the few kind of beauty brands in global beauty brands in India that has a brand app which has the loyalty program integrated into it as well. So the capturing of the consumers' buying pattern, their behavior, what are they buying, and the ability for us to then make their next purchase or to kind of add to their knowledge about the purchase easier is infinitely improved because of that. Something as simple as, we know that if a consumer is purchasing a tea tree face wash, which is typically a range for a blemish prone skin, we know that, they're probably we are able to track the customer's life cycle very, very closely. We're able to also then add value to it very, very closely. So a consumer, something as simple as it's been, we know that it's a product that probably requires refilling on an assumption that the
Mhm.
consumer is washing their face twice a day every 3 months. So it is as simple as being able to send an alert that, looks like you will be running low on this and so on and so forth. And hey, by the way, here's a sample of the newly launched tea tree night serum that may be able to help your skin heal and your acne heal as you sleep, to the right consumer who's really struggling with acne and who is looking to this range and this brand for a solution. That value add is very, very emotionally and financially important, right? Because you're getting a prompt at the right time, and it sounds very basic, but the level of work that has to go into it behind the scenes to ensure that the consumer has that experience, and the fact that that consumer then might buy that serum or might buy that refill the face wash online, and still to be able to have the data fed back to the store that, she's bought 2 tubes of face wash. One was off from your store the last time, one was 3 months ago from this, and now, this is what her basket looks like. That's very, very valuable knowledge that we are able to that we are then able to kind of pass on to our training teams, that we are able to educate our teams about better. We are able to then not be, pushy salespeople.
Right.
Your sales store team has knowledge that then allows them to kind of check with the consumer that, is this something you need, or, are you looking for a touch up, or we have an anti-acne concealer, for which also has tea tree in it. So that's really like a simple kind of example in terms of how you can add tremendous value in a high loyalty category. Skin,
Sure.
you've got that. If you take care of that customer, right, you've got that customer for life. Your prices may, prices may increase. Like, there may be 5 different brands putting out more and more products with the same active, but they're very, very unlikely to leave you because they have experience, and of course backed up by a good product, that goes without saying. But they've gotten service excellence that is then adding to the entire value that you bring to their lives.
I just got to double click on the point of loyalty programs, Antara. We work with a lot of brands that are in the process of building a loyalty program or already have one, and they run a lot of campaigns to WebEngage, right? Now, looking at a brand like Body Shop that's been running one since 2008, you made a great point about how it can hyper personalize the experience, right, for members of that loyalty program. Would love to find out a little bit about through business outcomes that you have been able to impact with said programs, right? Has it been helpful in, say, driving up the average order values? Have you actually been able to extract the second, third, and fourth transaction from a customer who's effectively just bought once from the brand, for example? As at the end of, say, a year, are you actually looking at numbers that says, hey, our lifetime value for a customer cohort has gone up? Have these started happening with brands which are leveraging very powerful loyalty programs?
Absolutely. I think for brands like The Body Shop, for brands like Force Essentials, for brands particularly in a multi-category play, it's a very, very powerful tool to have. For The Body Shop, like I mentioned already, that the majority of our business, the core of our business is our loyalty customer, and they are and we try and make sure, the reason why we also kind of work on the program very, very closely. We take a lot of feedback into the program. We try and learn from kind of best practices applied by brands in other parts of the world. It's constantly also, we are making tweaks to kind of improve the experience of the backend constantly, is because we see that value in making that investment. If we, at this point of time, for example, we know that not only does the core of our business the revenue come from our loyalty customers, it also happens to come largely from our skincare category. So that fundamentally lets us learn that our strategy in terms of building loyalty categories to retain a certain kind of consumer and try and increase their basket value is working, because those are the consumers who then do two things. Number one, they kind of experiment with and they try out other products in the category, right? So someone who's purchasing a face wash or a moisturizer has a higher propensity to try out an eye cream, to try out a sunscreen from the same brand, because they already trust the brand and the quality that the brand is providing. So that means within the same category, you've been able to grow their basket. The second thing is there are also ancillary categories, right? So for example, with skincare, typically we see hair care, body care acting as ancillary categories also, because they're looking for a conditioner or they're looking for a body lotion to kind of pick up. They've already come to the store to pick their regular skincare up, and you also see kind of a halo effect on those categories. Where I think you can see the most, because loyalty is, building a really strong loyalty program in India, especially where that diversity of consumer is so high, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It does not happen overnight. And it also happens only when you have two other parts of the equation completely taken care of. One is the product quality and one is the distribution. You could have the best loyalty program in the world. It could be the most attractive one that you can offer to your consumer. But ultimately, if your consumer is not happy with the product that they're taking home, is not happy with what it's doing for them, or they're happy and they're unable to access you easily, it's all going to come to nothing. So with The Body Shop, for example, it's currently one of the largest beauty retailers largest global beauty retailers in the country. It's almost about 200 odd physical retail touchpoints alone. About 19,000 pin codes that are being serviced just by D2C. And then, of course, you have the marketplaces and quick commerce and so on and so forth. So it is a strong ecosystem that's been built. It's also a loyalty program that's being built to be very close to a very strong kind of brand ethos. In the last, something in terms of endearing consumers to the brand. That is also something that loyalty programs can do. Loyalty programs sometimes are not just about milestones and points and rewards and redemptions, right? That is important, but it can serve as a very strong retention a tool, even from a brand perspective. In the last week that we made to the Body Shop loyalty program, we included some features where we have the Body Shop is, it's the original kind of ethical, sustainable beauty brand in the world. There was no brand like it. It's the one that's led the way. In India, we've had a program called Return, Recycle, Repeat for the longest time, since before the pandemic. We encourage consumers to bring back their Body Shop plastic empties to the store, drop it off, and we'll take care of it and recycle it at our end. Now, consumers through the Body Shop loyalty program, when loyalty members bring plastic empties back to the store, they are able to get a bonus points for it. So not only are we encouraging the behavior that the brand stands for and the values that the brand stands for, we're also delighting the customers by building a great habit in them. We're also essentially making sure that the consumers are coming back to your stores regularly, because they will have empties that are piling up, right? And they remember.
Exactly.
That's something. Then I've also worked on brands where we've experimented with many things. We've experimented with apart from your birthdays and your anniversaries, we also do loyalty program VIP events. So when we have new launches, or we have we have two big kind of sales a year, we open it up to loyalty consumers only for the first 2 days and invite them to the store and give them a lovely experience. And then we try and replicate the same thing online as well. So it is beyond, I think, what a loyalty program can offer, because today I think the worry that I have, both as a consumer and as a marketeer, is that I think loyalty programs are in danger of becoming, duplicates of each other. All of them are built a certain way. They have a certain kind of tier, which I understand. That's completely fair. But again, I keep coming back to value addition. There is no retention a policy, or there's no retention strategy as strong as that of having a brand and that brand providing a product and a service that is deeply loved. The job of a loyalty program, the job of e-commerce, all the channels that we apply, all the tools that we apply, any retention tactic that we apply is to take that further. Without that being the core of a program, then you're a Me Too program. There's not much difference. The ones that do it really well do it by integrating both brand and product and service and tech together.
Awesome. I love the fact that you're able to drive more footfalls with a lot of these programs that you're running. That's just genius. And you're also helping people feel better about saving the environment in a way, which is true. I think that's genius. One question that has been on my mind, we work with a few luxury brands, and as you know, WebEngage is in the business of engagement, and luxury brands tend to do things a little differently. They don't want to over-engage with their consumers. And what we have seen typically as a pattern in regular DTC brands is they're okay to send a couple of messages every day, so long as, of course, it drives some sort of value, right? Whether it's a loyalty program, whether it is a new product engagement. But luxury brands are different. And there are so many brands in the beauty personal care space, right, where we get a clear mandate from the brand that we do not want to extend any comms until the time it's absolutely necessary. It's more of a pull strategy. The consumer will find us. How do you manage a brand's engagement, a luxury brand's engagement strategy? Any tips there?
Yeah. So with luxury brands, yes, you're absolutely right. It is the luxury brands by definition are built on the back of very core, well-crafted, thoughtfully executed and meticulously maintained brand codes. For any luxury brand that is successful and that has held its kind of position for a long time, you'll see a lot of the strongest luxury brands kind of hold their space no matter what happens around them. And that's the mark of a really strong brand, right? The reason why luxury brands behave the way they do is because of the fact that there is a deep association that has been built over a certain period of time in the consumer's mind, which really negates doubt in their head when they're buying from that brand. Because it is that quality and value perception to the consumer when they're buying from a luxury brand that they have either aspired to or that is already part of their lives. They believe that because the brand is the way it is, and because it is, it invests more in product development, a better quality of product, better ingredients, better process of creating those products and getting you to them. And of course, the quality of service that you would see in a luxury brand is very different from what you would experience otherwise. So comms and luxury and all great luxury brands are careful about over communicating or, kind of reaching out to consumers too many times, because consumers do come to them. But that also brings you to the conundrum of how do you really acquire consumers, and what's the line. To me, in terms of luxury brand marketing, I think what's really, really important is that whether you are a retention marketeer, whether you are, in charge of, the CRM, whether you are a store manager, understanding what the brand stands for and having the ability to understand that, no, this is something my brand will not do, is far more important than saying, yes, this is going to mean more revenue for me. Because the slight uptick that you will get by maybe pushing out 3 extra emailers is not worth the dent that you're making to this extremely meticulously created brand in the consumer's head.
Yeah.
So, yes, certainly, because I've worked on both, I've kind of worked across the spectrum. I've worked on mass market brands, I've worked on premium, I've worked on prestige brands. It is like, for someone like me, it's constantly a matter of adjusting your meter. Even on my current portfolio, for example, the Body Shop is a premium brand. We have brands like Kiehl's, which are luxury brands. Very high-end, very high-quality dermatological kind of solution brands. So, it's constantly juggling those priorities, and you keep the brand as a North Star. You understand a lot of times for us business people, it's very challenging, everyone else is doing it. Luxury brands are built by not doing what everyone else is doing. It's the power of saying no. And I feel like the best luxury stores, in whatever category, if whether it's fashion, whether that's jewelry, or whether that's beauty, consumer electronics, so on and so forth, the best stores and the best online experiences are the ones where you will feel that I understand this brand if I'm an existing consumer, or this is what I wanted out of the brand if you've been aspiring to buy that brand. So you can't take away from that. Communicating less but very, very high quality content is super important. Luxury consumers are, have the world of brands at their feet. You have to be an engaging brand. You have to provide content that is elevated, but that is still relevant. And the frequency of communication, it has to be at whatever level. You can maybe take it up by 1 notch because of seasonality, but you can't take it out. You cannot drive that up to 10, because that's not what the consumer is expecting from the brand either. And now I think what's very interesting is that, there's also like a whole ecosystem of homegrown luxury brands, right? So you have the global luxury kind of beauty players now competing with homegrown beauty players. There are acquisitions happening in the space. And the luxury beauty segment right now is growing faster than the market, which is already going fast, right? So if the market is growing at about 11 to 15%, luxury beauty is growing at about 15 to 20%. So that means for luxury players, there is that much more reason to look at their, kind of consumer outreach strategies, especially retention strategies, very, very closely. In luxury branding, if you have to apply a simple parallel, luxury branding is, for retention marketing in luxury branding, is client servicing. So every consumer is a client. So you reach out to that consumer accordingly. You reach out to them when you have something pertinent. Every communication is the best possible communication that can happen at that point.
Got it. So almost like a one-to-one hyper-personalized experience, even if it's a digital message, that still works well. Amazing. Great point. While we are on the topic of engagement and communication, Antara, in your experience, what's the typical channel mix as far as digital engagement is concerned? That works very well. And any superstar channel that has outperformed your expectations?
I think channel mix, because the category itself has evolved so rapidly. I mean, I look back to about where we've been over the last 15, 16 years. There have been multiple waves of change that has happened. Initially it was basically just mass beauty players. Then, there was some premiumization that happened with global players kind of launching in general trade and modern trade. Then there was the e-com wave. Somewhere there at the same time when e-com kind of started becoming a serious play in beauty, there was also the first wave of homegrown players, etc. I think the channel mix has constantly been evolving. In terms of digital channel mix, for example, that's something that we're still seeing as evolving, right? Immediately in the year after market opening up from pandemic, who would have thought quick commerce, beauty play in quick commerce will be what it is shaping up to be right now.
Yeah.
So it's, we have in my, not that long a career of 16 years, I have seen, kind of global brands move from consumer will never buy a lipstick or nail paint that they're not trying, to now consumer wants the lipstick delivered in 7 to 10 minutes or less, right? So what is really like the best channel mix is the channel mix that makes your product the most accessible to consumers.
Right.
Typically, what I see is that for global and especially for premium to prestige brands, I think D2C remains very, very important. Your own D2C is that I don't think the reliance on that is ever going to kind of really go away. So D2C marketplaces, and then what I like to call are all, like everything that was a pilot a year or two ago and now has become part of your mix. D2C, I think, for a healthy kind of a P&L on your online business, I think D2C should still account for the lion's share, just because, as I said, economics. So about 50%, 40 to 50%, I would say, of your online business should still come from your D2C. I think marketplaces, maybe another, 60, maybe 20, or 60, 30, 10 is what I would go for. In marketplaces play a very, very important role because there again, it's a different kind of consumer. That's the consumer who is, it's the same consumer who buys beauty in a supermarket, right? So that's a consumer who is not looking for, who's not looking to experiment and see within the same brand. They want to experiment on formats, ingredients, see what's trending, see what is the top kind of choice that is being presented to them on a marketplace, etc., etc. So that's important because the reach that marketplaces give you, your D2C can aspire to it, and in an ideal scenario, I will be able to match it. But there are a lot of advantages to marketplaces working the way they are. In terms of channels, I think quick commerce has been an eye opener, especially over the last, I'd say, 2 years. When quick commerce channels kind of started out, they were groceries, right? We wanted to refill our groceries with them, and now everything from premium prestige beauty, you mass beauty brands, of course, very high end beauty brands are also have kind of a limited portfolio listed on quick commerce. Specifically on quick commerce, I think what's been really, really interesting to see is how beauty gifting has evolved. So, beauty is a very, very gifting friendly category, especially categories like bath and body, fragrance, men's care, etc. Right?
That's been my introduction to the world of beauty, mostly because of gifting.
Yeah, gifting. And, gifting was a huge and remains a very, very huge area of focus, and an area of high real estate within stores spaces as well, right? For brands which have standalone beauty stores or which are, let's say, present in like a Sephora or a Nykaa or a Tira store, etc. Gifting used to be like a very, very major kind of draw. And now we are seeing that the same consumer, as long as so for the consumer on quick commerce, what they need is gifting is very, it's very aspirational, right? The gift that you give someone says something about you. So as long as they have faith that it's a good brand and it's an aspirational brand and it's available to them in like, let's say, about a 10 to 12 minute kind of scenario, we've seen gifting as a category take off on quick commerce. And it's something I would have never thought I'd see even 4 years ago, because we were used to seeing consumers kind of step in, browse online for gifting, etc., etc. Now it's about, hey, this is a good brand, this is the budget I have, these are my 3 options, 10 minutes and it's in. So I'm very interested in seeing how this continues to evolve, because I think it will.
True.
And how that plays off against, we are seeing very distinct cohorts of consumers emerging. There are consumers that want to and will possibly keep buying from, exclusive brand stores only because they value the experience, they value the deals that they only get there, they value the fact that they have access to exclusive products in an exclusive brand store. There are consumers who are more convenience driven, who are, more refill driven, who are buying on D2C, who are buying on marketplaces. And then there are consumers who are occasional but very valuable consumers of the category, because when the gifting season strikes, the order value for gifting is very, very high. It's higher than order value, right? So I think there's going to be for brands with quick commerce, especially for beauty and lifestyle brands, I think you're going to see a lot more tailoring of assortment for quick commerce. You'll see a lot. I think maybe even from this festive season onwards, we'll see a lot of quick commerce only kind of gifting ranges, friendlier kind of price points, more aspirational but easy to kind of ship packaging. I think that we're going to see all that from the season itself, and it'll be fun to see what happens with this.
So do you feel, Antara, that the inherent advantage that marketplaces used to possess, which was having a very large captive audience, is slowly moving away in favor of a quick commerce player that's come in, has a sizable advantage in terms of a captive audience again, but is able to offer a much more premium experience, especially for a category like beauty, which relies on that premiumization?
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely been a dent. And that's something that I've noticed even from like our day-to-day working with multiple brands, etc. With marketplaces, that certainly for brands which were maybe gifting heavy on marketplaces, or which we relied very highly on not just gifting but also bundles, on assortments, etc. I see those kind of getting impacted much more rapidly. Having said that, with quick commerce, the inherent challenges of that channel still exist, right? You still have a restricted assortment that you are able to put up.
Sure.
There are still logistical challenges. And marketplaces, because of the way they are built on the back end, they are able to absorb a far higher assortment. So I think some of the consumer would have migrated for sure, especially, the consumer that is used to the one-day delivery, either by design or by default. But yeah, I think for quick commerce, the assortment choice is something that will continue to keep consumers towards D2C marketplaces. The assortment solving for that, I think, is going to take care of a lot of that. And at the end of the day, see, it's I think as brand people and as growth drivers, we have to be aware that we have to. I keep coming back to this, and I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record, but we have to keep making that our consumers can access us easily. And if that is commerce, in a way that is that is true to the brand, that is not reducing the brand's aura or the ethos in any way in the eyes of the customer, then why not? And it's our job to figure out how to make that mix work. If we don't adapt to it, someone else will take our spot in a rapidly evolving channel, and that's only natural. The Body Shop has been the first kind of international beauty brand to go live on a lot of quick commerce channels. The Body Shop is the first kind of global beauty brand, the first one to go live on ONDC. So we will continue to experiment, and then because that's the marquee brand in our portfolio, and then we have more premium brands, we have prestige brands, we have a couple of kind of mass premium brands in the portfolio as well, like Avon, etc. We will use those lessons and then see how to kind of take that across the various channel mixes.
I have probably purchased so many beauty products from quick commerce brands in the last maybe 1.5 years. I remember I had this emergency requirement for a sunscreen. And in my head, I saw there was this one Korean brand, which was, of course, promoting its wares. And I said, hey, it's Korean, it's got to be the best. So I ended up buying that. I have absolutely zero understanding of how sunscreen works, but I have that on my dresser now. So I completely agree with the way it's changing the introduction to a lot of cool new brands. It certainly used to be Amazon for me back in the day, but I probably don't shop for these products on Amazon anymore. So that's been an interesting evolution. And I'm sure the natural laddering for you would be to ultimately get these consumers to your website, where there's a better experience and all of that. which brings me to the question of acquisition retention, right? Because of course we are WebEngage, we talk about retention, but we work with so many DTC brands that were frustrated with the rising costs of acquisition, right? Thanks to the privacy changes, iOS 15 and so on. And it's just Facebook and Meta, they are no longer a source of cheap leads. So things have changed, and it's not in the favor of, running those acquisition heavy campaigns again, where you do a spray and pray and you're sorted for the year because your targets are met. So in my experience, I've always asked founders this question, like, what is your acquisition versus retention split in terms of, say, a marketing budget? And what have you seen in that regard, Antara?
So that's very interesting because yes, I completely understand your challenge at WebEngage as well, because I think for the longest time in consumer categories, we've just experienced this deluge of kind of acquisition heavy brands, right? Where you're which was at that point of time made sense, but now it's just flat out unviable. The math just does not add up anymore on that. So very honestly speaking, I think I've been lucky. I've been able to work on brands, global brands which have very, very strong brand codes, and therefore, they always look at acquisition through like a brand lens first. It's a brand forward lens, and then you keep the brand first and then see where everything else lands. Even for my experience with homegrown brands, I've been lucky to work with founders who understand very clearly that there is only so much that you can do in terms of throwing everything at the wall and hoping that something is going to stick, right? Largely, I would say across the board in the category, if I were to in today's climate, kind of try and set out a kind of marketing split, although that's not how budgets are kind of allocated. But typically we look at about, at this point of time, maybe like about a 40% on acquisition and 60% on retention.
Wow, really?
Yes, absolutely. So that of course also goes to our kind of business, right? The nature of our business is the fact that at the end of the day, we have the advantage of having global brands in the portfolio, right? So when you have a global brand, a lot of the money that you would ideally be burning in just having the consumer discover or explaining to the consumer what the brand stands for, building a certain kind of faith through a first trial, etc., are taken care of because a lot of them happen to be legacy brands. So I think with prestige and premium beauty brands, you do have that advantage, and you have the luxury of focusing on retention. Acquisition right now is, it is very easy to go wrong on investments in consumer acquisition because it is an overpopulated market. There are if I'm not, I might be wrong, but I think about at least 500 odd brands that have come up over the last, like, I'd say 5 to 7 years. There is almost, if you go on Instagram and you are already a dabbler or some sort of beauty consumer, you will see a new brand advertising and delivering ads to you on Instagram every day almost. So how much money can you keep burning as a brand that is maybe like either an established player or has a certain kind of legacy or, a certain kind of muscle as a brand? How much money are you going to keep spending to elbow out newer entrants, right? I think where the money is, where an investment is spent much more judiciously is on retention. And that retention can mean multiple things. It can mean engagement, driving kind of digital engagement, personalization, offering, more customized solutions to consumers, etc. It also goes into education and content creation that is education forward, etc. Right? We count all that as retention. For acquisition, I think we've. It's easy to say that we've arrived at this mix. It's not an absolute piece, but just given how unviable, high acquisition campaigns have become, we just see better productivity by investing in retention better. So that could mean retail education, that could mean retail excellence, that could mean improving our D2C. We overhauled 2 of the largest brands in our portfolio. We overhauled the D2C websites completely in the last couple of years. We took global brand builds and then added kind of personalization and AI driven kind of custom features, etc., to make it more friendly for Indian consumers, because our Indian consumer in Delhi is dramatically different from our Indian consumer in Vizag. Those are the investments, which a lot of them are longer term investments as well, right? So those are the investments that make sense for us, because as far as we are concerned, we are guarding the core of our business. And acquisition, as long as we are doing great work on, on top of what the global brands are already doing, as long as we're making the brand stories more relevant, we are speaking to consumers in their language, we are really, kind of addressing their needs and concerns and desires, the acquisition will come. But I personally, as a marketer, I don't see very much value in just kind of going all out, whether that is, very high ATL expenses, whether that is, all, the kind of budgets that we've seen being allocated to, top of funnel campaigns, etc., in the past have been absolutely insane. And we know what the ROI on those have been in the last couple of years. So I think in current climate, that's what we are going with. But then, our consumers, our Indian consumers are there is no consumer that can school you as well as an Indian consumer. I have worked on other markets as well, South Asian markets, etc., as well. Something will change at some point of time. I think with younger consumers coming in, with the more younger millennials, the more Gen Z consumers coming in, I'm sure there will be more surprises in store for us, and I'm sure we will have to, be quick on our feet for that as well.
Has influencer marketing worked for you guys, Antara? And when I say work for you guys, the biggest gripe is, hey, I find it almost impossible to track ROI from this.
Yeah. So influencer marketing, to be very honest, I think for the brands and for the category that I work in, I think primarily for the longest time has been an acquisition and,
Sure.
a channel to drive visibility, right? And that is still a strong channel to drive visibility. But yes, I think the way content has started to kind of evolve has become very, very important in our category, because now, with the explosion in the beauty category, there has also been an explosion in the beauty and, personal care kind of content creator ecosystem as well, right? And and we have, I think, also gone through a cycle of where we have kind of used. So typically, when we have new launches or we have big ticket launches, we kind of go out to the entire ecosystem, and we are lucky that we've also built like a lot of strong relationships with content creators, etc. But for, retention and for keeping, the information kind of flowing through, for things as simple as, like regimen building, stepification of skincare and the hair care piece that we're talking about, we are now starting to see a lot more, we're starting to see a lot more engagement and a lot more return on micro and nano influencers. Because, because as brands, we have the, we also have the global brands also have the challenge of making themselves relevant to an audience that is now no longer consuming beauty out of the top 4-5 cities, right? Tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. While I hate the nomenclature of that, those centers are the ones that are driving consumption in our category right now across the board. You will be surprised to see how much luxury beauty is being consumed out of the smaller towns and cities, where luxury beauty stores possibly don't have a retail footprint and will not be able to have the real kind of real estate they require to build a retail footprint there. So, so
is that playing into the hype, which is leading to consumption?
That's playing majorly into our nano and kind of micro influencer strategy, because a luxury beauty or a great quality content creator can be anywhere. It's an extremely, one of the most beautiful things that has happened to the category is how democratized it has become over the last 5-6 years, right? So the quality of the content creator, how, and irrespective of language, how they're able to kind of put the brand across, do they align with what the brand stands for? Those are starting to kind of become more important, rather than just kind of seeing. I think that era of, so many followers and this is the engagement rate and, this is the per post rate and all that. I think that's probably something that we've evolved out of now. I think brands have to look more closely. I think content creator marketing will always be very, very important, because In beauty, consumers want to see the product being used by someone like them, right? There's a reason why celebrity endorsements in beauty have moved a certain direction. So I think it will remain in play, but brands have to be very, very careful about how they utilize content creators. Is it a numbers game? Do you keep aiming for very large numbers on a campaign? Does your campaign demand that? And secondly, what is your pool of content creators for brand building? What is your pool of content creators for driving, kind of trial or driving, let's say, the second purchase or expanding a basket from skincare to hair care?
That's an amazing point.
Basis that we look at, pools of content creators. Basis that, of course, we have, and as I said, with global brands, you do have the advantage of kind of navigating those relationships as well.
Awesome. I think super insightful that influencer marketing is being leveraged for driving second, third purchase, driving usage patterns, and helping people evolve and get educated. I think that's the insightful bit for me. And I'm going to ask you a question because this is the festive season, right? All the sales are on top of us already. Any tactical piece of advice you want to give to BPC marketers out there? What should they be focusing on this sales season?
So on sales season is already on. I'm sure both of our phones have uncountable notifications and WhatsApp messages already. And my tip to kind of beauty marketers in this season is actually linked to that. I'm a very big believer in using the early part of the sales season. Because I'll tell you what, I've seen multiple tactics being employed. I feel that for beauty consumers, I have, and this is something we've seen through the data and the tech integrations that we have on our brands as well. A lot of consumers wish list. Okay, so beauty buyers wish list in advance, because they know that maybe a great price will be coming on, etc., etc. Please identify very clearly what is your number one, what are your non-discountables? Your categories and your top sellers, which already have a certain kind of momentum, which already have a certain base of consumers. Those consumers will buy that category even if it is not on discount. So going to town on discounting as a blanket because you wanted a blanket price call out on your banner, marketeers alert. No, please learn to say no to that. So your discounting also has to be strategic in nature. Discounting can apply your discounting to the range of products which you want to move into your top 20. Where consumers have interest. Maybe it's the price that's been holding them back. Maybe it is lack of knowledge. Maybe they just haven't seen that product enough. So that's something that I think I'd love to see from more beauty brands, because I honestly feel that beyond a certain whatever basic discounting that maybe the platforms kind of force brands on, I really feel that bread and butter SKUs do not need to be discounted. Where you really can use discounts are, as I said, what is your next rung of products that you want to move, and you believe that the product has the muscle in it to move into your top 15 or top 10. And secondly, I think I would really love to see more customized offerings for the sales season, for whether it is a marketplace, whether it is a quick commerce player, or whether it is D2C. There are a lot of advantages that beauty buyers and beauty consumers experience in offline touchpoints. So if you have to offer value in sales season to the customer, it doesn't just have to be discount. It could be a combination of, let's say, you mentioned sun care, and I think sunscreen is a very classic case of how, if you look at just how sunscreen has evolved in India, you'll have the beauty and personal care market in a nutshell. It could be something as simple as a face wash and a sunscreen assortment that is coming at maybe not a very deep discount, but at a good price, with backed by really interesting content as to how that just those two, for let's say for a really busy professional, or with no matter what gender you belong to, could just be your basic skincare routine, and then you start from there and then you go from there. So I'd like to see more custom offerings and more custom kind of assortments for sales season. I think a lot of brands are doing it already. But there's a difference between building a bundle and there's a difference between building something that's a one-step, two-step regimen that adds some value to the customer.
If you had to build a brand tomorrow, Antara, in the beauty personal care space, where would you build the brand? Is it going to be in what you're doing right now, or do you have a niche identified which you feel is going to be, it's poised for success?
Very tough. It's a very tough question. Because as I said, there is so much overcrowding of the market right now. There are sometimes, even though I'm very close, I'm both a consumer and a marketeer of the category. I'm a major skincare junkie. So I find it difficult to kind of differentiate between brands now sometimes, because the visual merchandising, the creative design, the claims,
it all looks the same.
A lot of them have started looking the same. So I don't know if there are really any major white spaces really left, because I think the Indian D2C ecosystem has been great at that. There have been so many interesting brands that have come up by just identifying a few niches. I'm not sure if there is any true blue white space really left. Having said that, what I would probably do is I would look at emerging consumer segments and emerging consumer needs. Something, we've been talking about Gen Z and millennials for a very long time. I feel that consumer and marketeers at this point of time, including who have beauty portfolios to manage right now, should be looking at the aging demographics as well, because that's going to come into play very soon. So, skincare for senior skin could be very interesting. That's there are lines that are available. I'm not sure if anyone's done that really better. And it's an emergent kind of consumer segment. Similarly, I think there's this, while it is still quite crowded, I think there's a lot of work that can be done in the baby and the kids segment as well. I think I have a toddler, and I have a lot of working moms surrounding me. In my organization, it's a gender equitable organization. A lot, we have over 50% women. I don't see all the forms of moms work, especially working moms, with regards to their kids and their tweens and their babies' personal care kind of attended to. But that's already become quite a crowded segment. I also think that hybrid beauty products will probably be something that will emerge very strongly, because the time span that people have to dedicate to beauty is getting lesser and lesser, but their expectations of efficiency and performance of products are getting higher and higher. So I think we'll see a lot of this hybrid kind of hybrid kind of beauty brands emerge. So, makeup with skincare benefits, skincare with makeup advantages, bath and body and hair care with SPF, because it's just a reality of how our lifestyles are at this point of time. So we're starting to see it already. We're starting to see tinted sunscreens and tinted moisturizers. BB creams and CC creams have had a movement in the business as well. But I think this is going to happen. I think there'll be brands that are built in this space as well.
Amazing. Final question for the day, Antara. How important a role do you think MarTech companies are going to play in helping brands in the beauty space build a very powerful narrative and expand on the retention segment?
So, because of, for marketing companies, I think it is a very vibrant, fast-growing ecosystem, right? So, just the sheer number of brands means that there is that many number of solutions to offer. Of course, like I said, broadly, there are about, I'd say about 6-7 segments of brands that are kind of at play right now in the market, from, if you look at going from mass to your ultra luxury kind of brands. I think for marketing companies, what is going to be very, very interesting for both homegrown as well as for global beauty brands is to kind of help establish a clearer, a deeper understanding of the market. Because I feel a lot of homegrown brands, because they are made in India, they have a better understanding of like ground realities. But even homegrown brands and global brands, I kind of see them discovering as they go. So I think on consumer inciting, on consumer intelligence, on purchase patterns, on behavioral patterns, there's a lot of work and a lot of support that marketing companies can provide, because everyone is looking at this one industry and trying to figure out, it's a great, it's a lucrative category for multiple reasons. It's very high touch. It's very high on profitability. It's your consumer segment is very fast. But then the moment when the hard questions have to be answered, right? Who's our consumer? Where are they? How do we sell to them? What do we sell to them? Do we start with the store, go online? Do we go with the store? Do we go online, balance it up with the store? Is it multi-channel retail, or is it a marketplace model? Those all ideally should come from consumer behavior and from consumer purchase patterns. And that's where there is a lot of work that I think I know. And I've also seen incredible work that's happening in this space. I think the problem is particularly salient for global brands, because global brands, they are built a certain way. There's certain brand principles and brand codes that are built in. And a lot of times I've seen a lot of, not just on my current brands, but across the board, my experience has been that a lot of global brand teams take it's a market that requires building of comprehension. It's a market that requires them to understand the many, 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 many consumer cohorts that actually exist. And building, I think, local relevance and localizing what they stand for without really denting, what the value that customers see in them. These are the big questions that I think I would expect from a marketing company looking to market a brand as well.
Interesting. So lots of consumer analytics that result into insights and help you give true business outcomes. Well,
real world day-to-day intelligence. See, the challenge right now that we're facing is that the data is overwhelming us at this point of time. We have data, we don't have knowledge, and fixing the gap between the two is where we have where marketing partners and the marketing ecosystem can really come into play
as an intervention. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have, Antara. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. I got to learn so much about the exciting industry of beauty and personal care.
Absolutely, it's been a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking about this very exciting category, and I've had a lot of fun. And I thank you for your insightful questions as well, because you've also kind of made me think back to a lot of things which maybe I don't really get an opportunity to think about in the day-to-day.
I hope you liked the last episode. If you did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.